Well, listen, great minds think alike, and you're gonna
Okay.
find out why in just a little bit. We're gonna dive into my list now, and I'm gonna go number 5 as a combo because I couldn't decide who I wanted to give this spot
Oh,
to. So I
cop
said,
out.
I'm gonna go ahead and split it down the middle, and that
Okay.
is Charles Barkley and
Mm,
Ron Artest. Ron Artest, for a lot of the same reasons that you said when you brought him up on your list. I mean, anybody who's willing to just throw around elbows, just willingly to go ahead and win games and to go ahead and apply pressure to their opponent is somebody you should fear. I think that he was not afraid to do the dirty work, especially, when you talk about him on the Lakers, like you
mhm.
said, in the pace with the Pacers. Just was not afraid to get his hands dirty in the way to win basketball games. You got to appreciate it. Charles Barkley, now I think that it's so funny because we see Chuck now,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people don't realize that Chuck, as a Phoenix Sun, was a dog.
Mhm.
Okay. Like, he was mean, he was gritty, he was aggressive, he was nasty, and he was one hell of a basketball player. Yes, he's never won. And I know the guys always get on him for that.
Yeah.
He's not part of the ring club. But when you had to face Charles Barkley, you knew you were in for a fight. And watching, old film of him and just watching documentaries about the Phoenix Suns and in that era, Charles Barkley was, a mean, mean, mean guy. So him and Ron Artest are my split.
I'm
I'm
just
gonna move.
disappointed that you're splitting. I'm gonna let it slide for the moment, but I'm just mad
I
that you
couldn't
haven't,
decide. It was only five.
and that's you got
Um,
to make the hard decisions. It's
I
your list.
know, I know. Whatever. It's my list. I'll do what I want.
Okay. Okay.
So number 4 is a guy who I'm familiar with as a New York Knick, Charles Oakley. Listen,
Mm.
Charles Oakley was a mean, mean guy. And if you can beef with your owner to this day, then I feel like that just fully cements you as just scary, mean, aggressive, whatever the case may be. Um, yeah, Charles Oakley was just, and I love that era of basketball too because they encourage that meanness and that ferociousness and that aggressiveness to go ahead and just be full court press when it came to
Mhm.
basketball games. I mean, now you sneeze on the guy a wrong way and it's foul, flag, all this stuff. Like, well, there's no flags in basketball. You get the point.
Yeah, I know.
Um, Back then it was like, no, Charles Oakley, he saw you coming down, elbow. He saw you coming down, chokehold, punch. Like, it was aggressive. It was insane. And he just looked mean. He's just somebody I wouldn't want to like have to defend because I'm just like, bro, I want no smoke with you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whatever you want, you got it. Um, Coming at number 3, it's a name that you mentioned, Shaquille O'Neal. I think
Mhm.
Shaq's interesting too because Shaq was such a goofball and he was like such a larger than life personality as a player. He was silly and he was just like a big kid in so many ways, but on the court, he was just so dominant and so aggressive and just it's like a flip of a switch almost. Like it just 1 minute he's making jokes and he's dancing during the national anthem and the next he's like in your face just like pushing you and shoving you and it's just absolutely insane how you can just have such drastic different parts of your personality and they both work for you at any time that you need them to. So Shaq's number 3. Coming in number 2, you said it, Kobe Bean Bryant. I
Yeah.
have his Mamba Mentality book behind me. I think that Kobe, if you listen to stories of guys who played against him, Carmelo Anthony's one that sticks out in my head. He said that when the Lakers came to play the Nuggets, Kobe during warmups was just already like getting in his head to the point where Carmelo was like, did he just say that to me? Like, what does that even mean? Like to the point where it's like now you're questioning yourself
Mhm.
and you have to go one-on-one against this guy in a game for 4 quarters. I just think the mentality and being able to psychologically just put fear into your opponent and just make them question themselves when they know that they have the skills to go against you is what made Kobe so lethal. And because of that, just like you had him, MJ,
Yep.
simple. I mean, this is a guy who would bet on 2 grasshoppers walking down, a wall, crawling down a wall, and make you question whether or not you knew what you were doing when you placed that bet. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Michael Jordan, just like Kobe, was able to get into his opponent's head and way before the game even started. I mean, his trash talking leading up to games and then coming into games at half court saying like, I'm going to beat you, right? You're not going to hit any free throws tonight, right? And you really are just like, yo, who does this guy think he is? And then what would happen? You wouldn't beat him and you wouldn't hit any free throws. So there's Michael Jordan. And to me, that is what scary is. And that is what fear is. No shade to LeBron, one hell of a dominant player. But I think when we break down our list, because you didn't have him and I didn't have him,
right?
I think it's fair to say what we think fear and scariness is,
Yeah, I think time has changed and we can like live in the past sometimes, and that can be like fun to think back to like how crazy things were back then. But I'd have LeBron at 6 on my list if I was gonna like extrapolate it out a little bit. I think like he's certainly in the conversation, and like in today's NBA, like until they maybe change defensive rules or whatever, I think he's the closest that we'll get to having someone be feared. Because I think at his peak, he's feared more than Steph was ever feared.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, listen, we have a viewer list, so you and I are going to react to it, and then we'll get into our break. So go ahead, Aaron, throw it up there. Let's see what we have here. We have Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, AI, Steph. Interesting. So, okay, Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, we both know that we agree with that because that's identical to our list.
Yeah.
AI is an interesting one because as a diehard Iverson fan, there he is right here, his cover of Sports Illustrated. I didn't have him on my list. What about you? Do you think scary, feared when you think of AI?
I didn't think scary and feared. I think maybe like it's a good way that you can maybe look and think about scary and feared, because the way that he dressed, his whole aura, and maybe that being part of the reason why they changed the dress code and you had to show up, you couldn't have your street clothes on when you show up to the arena. I think that like if we go like really deep in the bag with it from like a culture standpoint, maybe he scared some people like in America. Like he was just so different. He was so like left field, like what we hadn't seen, like with the cornrows and all those things that like we thought was so cool. I think that like I can see it. And then he's a certified bucket getter, certified
sniper for sure.
So I can like spin ways and be like, okay, I wouldn't think of that, but like I'm not mad at it.
What about Steph?
If people want to argue,
he's
stuff
such
like,
a nice guy,
cool.
But if you mean in terms of skill set, then sure. Because like that like a few seconds left on the clock, Steph Curry has the ball in his hand. 9 times out of 10, he's gonna make that shot, and it's going. Your dreams are gonna be crushed, right? But if we're talking personality, the babyface killer, come on, Steph.
I think like a few times we've seen like Steph actually get angry. Like if the one time in the playoffs, I think when he threw his mouth guard.
It's like not serious.
But like I think like maybe if you like poke just the right combination, you can get like an angry Steph. And like I don't want to get that angry Steph. I think he's certainly a competitor and not knocking like any of his desire to win, because like there's so many different ways you can go about getting dubs. But I think that like, okay, I can say there's a little bit of fear because he's so good and he can shoot you out the gym, and maybe like just flip a switch for a second, and be like angry and then get right back to it.
I'm gonna need you to sit this one out, babyface killer. I love you though. I love you. It's no shade.